I'll call this meeting to order. And we have the minutes of November 1st and November 8th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for November 1st and November 8th.
We have to do them separate.
And we have to do them separate because somebody was not here. So I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for November 1st.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Who was left? I wasn't here.
Todd's abstaining.
All right.
Now I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for November 8th.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We have warrants 10, the payroll 10P, and Recreation Board number 1, which is for some soccer medals.
I'll make a motion that we approve warrants 10, 10P, and Recreation Board 1.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Let's see. Well, warrant 10 is for $36,603.04. That is going to, among other things, fuel, some ARPA payments to the community center, our rescue monthly bill for the sheriff, some office expense, highway department expenses, health insurance, and payroll transfers. Any other discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, under ARPA funding, those are all taken care of just in the warrants, nothing new. So we can move on to the library trustees under visitors and public comment. Unless anyone is here for public comments other than what's on the agenda. Okay?
Would you like us to come in there?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Depends how many of them. You know, we can move out if there's more.
Melissa's on her way to fill somewhere.
Another chair from this office. Okay. Okay. Do you know everyone?
Not everyone,
Okay.
actually, no.
I'm Louis White.
I live state shoppers.
Alex Wilson.
I'm Z. Goodman.
Todd Davidson.
Maria Glayback.
Jamie Bristol and Phyllis.
Okay. Okay. Well, this is to go over your budget that you
Yes.
submitted.
How do you want to start this? Do you submit it to you?
Let's see. Well, there was a letter to explain budgets that we received. But you're asking the town for, let's see, is it $35,320, which is about maybe double what?
It's 88% increase from last year.
Okay, so,
Knock that right on your head.
Yes. And that's a 23% from the year before, so.
okay, so,
And by the way, the what Lyle had sent you was only part of it. This cover page, which is sort of an overview. But then what's very important that we can discuss hopefully are some of the statistics in terms of why we're asking for such an increase. So those were being passed around. So what are your initial thoughts?
so I'd like to hear why you
Sure.
why we should go to the taxpayers in town and ask them to increase your budget.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, so on the cover page, a few of the overall bullet points address that we're looking to provide more library programming altogether. We are looking to provide more open hours. Currently, we are only open 12 hours a week, and then just one administrative hour for Dina. We would allow our staff, which is Dina, to do more grant writing and fundraising activities. And then we would like to retain and keep hired professionally qualified staff. Something I'll bring to your attention is that in 10 years, the library has had 5 different librarians. And we're convinced that part of that reason is that it's, the wage is not great. So that being said, if you look further into this packet that I handed you, something I want to bring to your attention is that our population band, we fall within the 1,000 to 2,000 residents. And if you look at this middle grid here, you can see that we are well below all of the neighboring towns. It says 15 hours. Is that right, Tina? 15 hours? You have
3 of them are volunteer staffed.
Okay, right. So there it is. 3 of those are by volunteers. Compare that to Townsend, Guilford, Vernon, Putney, and Dover that are all at least 20. The lowest there is 22 hours that they're open. And some of them, which again have the same population or similar populations to Dummerston, have even multiple employees. And one of the things we are looking to do as well is not hire a second librarian, but rather hire an assistant who would bring to the table other strengths and experiences that Dina might not possess. Specifically looking for someone with more of a background in children's programming. There's a large number of library patrons who are coming in with children and are looking for that type of programming. If you flip to the next page, currently the appropriation from our town is Tina, can you, what is this, remind me what this is right here?
Yeah, that's the town appropriation, and that was the
Okay.
last year.
From last
That might
year.
have been like 2021 or something, I'm not sure.
Right, and if you compare that now to Townsend, of a similar size, getting almost $46,000 for its library. And then all of those numbers there, we're obviously not gonna try to compare with Dover, it's a whole different ballgame. But we are well below many of these other neighboring towns. So ultimately,
And just to give you clarity, that number that you gave, the 14,000, we did increase that 23% last year, so that's $18,834 should be the number instead of 14,000.
Yeah, 14,000 was from fiscal year 19,
Right, so that's.
quite a while.
You're
What's that amount, 18?
$18,834 is what we use.
Yes,
Okay.
that's for 2024.
Okay, that's what we're gonna be getting.
That's what you're in this year.
sorry,
This is
that's,
this-
yeah, sorry, so that is what will be this year then.
You
Yes,
missed,
that started back in July.
July
Okay,
1.
yes.
great, okay, fair
Because it
enough.
goes to
Okay, so
July,
it was
July,
like
and
15
the year before
something.
that. So yeah, the number you gave us was like 3 or 4 years back.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
so it was 15,3 the
Last-
previous year.
Last year, and the year before that was a 14.8. So that's where you guys, so yeah, your numbers,
Fair enough, so then it's even less of an increase by that much.
right, it's 88% is what you're asking now.
Right. So ultimately, what the town gives us, because we also do our own fundraising, what the town gives us covers salary, our rent, which has increased significantly and will increase
Yeah,
significantly.
when you say significantly, how much is the actual rent?
So, let's see. It was 3,300 and it's going up to 5,400.
So, but that's a year,
Correct.
okay, because I'm used to that being a month, so, where I was. Because how many square feet do you have?
It's like 780 something.
So that's, and how much did you say that was, 5,000 what?
400.
400? So you're talking $450 a month, which is, to me, a steal, because you got water, you've got a lot of stuff there, so that's, I think that's a heck of a deal, really.
We're not complaining about that, I'm just telling you that's
Yeah.
part of our
Right,
increase. So, and primarily the salary increase and the fact that we're looking for an assistant is where I think the bulk of the, what we're asking for comes from. Hey, is there anything else I should address that you'd like me to?
No, I think you're doing great.
just off the top of your head, because I don't see it here and I might be just overlooking it, which, oh, there we go. So, no. What are you asking for this, librarian salary to go up to?
20
20.
from 1755.
So we've got, I'm just looking at what we're paying the, other folks in town. And, I mean, that's as much as a couple of the road crew guys are making. It's more than all our listers in town. So you're asking for a significant amount as far as I would see, looking at the numbers, what the rest of the town is getting for salaries for employees.
We have lost librarians just since I've been a volunteer because they move on to other areas where they're getting paid so much more. And so the last time I spent many days down there helping to keep the library open between when one left and another one came. And for a town our size, I think we should be able to afford to keep a librarian more than the average of 2 years or something. A library is very important. We have people coming in needing information about all sorts of things that you wouldn't believe because the world has changed so much from when it was just take out a book and bring it back. Life has changed. And there's so much more than needing and asking, so we just cannot provide it. There's a few hours we have no morning hours, we have no evening hours, and only 3 hours on a Saturday, and that's from volunteers like Phyllis and myself.
So when I look at the numbers of people using the library each month, and that's based on your 12 hours a week now?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so.
15 hours a week,
Oh,
but
15,
3 of them are volunteer
3 of
staff.
them are- Okay,
3 hours
so
volunteer.
adding another 5 hours, do you expect that will increase number of people coming, or what do you anticipate happening with being open more hours?
Ideally, sure. I mean, I think the fact that we're only open in the afternoon, some people wouldn't be able to necessarily come if they're working during those hours. So either having, I'm thinking probably more likely evening hours when people are finished with work. Potentially, I'm not sure how early in the morning we'd be looking to do it, but yes, certainly it would be to broaden the availability of the library to residents.
How many members do you guys have that actually have, you do memberships, right?
Let's see. Yeah, we have that number.
It was like 450 something, I think.
2020.
Oh, there we go, yeah. It actually, so it's 454, which is up from 288 in 2019. Which is how far back this group goes. So yeah,
Going
400.
up all the time, people come in, take out a new card and
I think too, another thing to consider is the education that goes into being a librarian. Not everybody is qualified.
So just quick numbers off the top of my head and my calculator. 454. The Brooks Library is $62 for a non-resident. That's one family member, and each family member, so if you have family members there, they get it for $5 a year. And that comes out to, you gotta be smarter than the phone. $2,800 a year if we said to everybody in town, you could choose between this library and this library, the town will pay for it. That would, the town would make out quite a bit better than going to the 30, I have it. 33,000 or whatever you guys are asking for.
The thing is that the town can't do that because the library is legally established to be a library because the people of the town voted because they want to have a library. So that's not even an option. That's not a thing that we could even do if we wanted to, but why would we ever even want to? Like, what kind of town doesn't want to support their library?
And send them off to.
I think, we're talking with the road crew about increasing wages for the road crew and, the cost of living has gone up for everyone. Of course, it will go up more because our taxes are going to increase in town, very likely. So I can see the argument to have increased the wages of your librarian. I can see that you having a library open more hours might attract more people. So I think that's great to try. Having an assistant, I wonder if I can see why you would want to have that also. But I think a lot of people, even if you're open more hours, the people that are going to Putney Library or the people that are going to Brattleboro may not take advantage of these extended hours that you have. I wonder, a year down the road, what your numbers will be and if it's as you hope they will be. I just wonder about that. I kind of think, I think it is important. I've always thought of the Lydia Taft Library as being sort of a village library and not that attractive to people living over by Route 5 or the east side of town. So I kind of think of it as a small village library, but I don't begrudge you wanting to try to make it more of a, see what will happen over longer.
And not just see what will happen, I think it's a matter of if we invest in the library, I'm not saying by, all in one fell swoop, but if over time we invest more in the library and make it attractive, make it a place that people are willing to come to, make it somewhat of a, not private town per se, but a place that, people are excited about utilizing versus driving to Putney. That's the goal. I mean, rather than saying, we'll give people money to go to another library, if we can over time make our library, something that's worth visiting, then why not do that,
And we have such a limited amount of space. We have to keep calling out books just because to get a new one that somebody wants to read, there's no place to put it. So that means you gotta constantly.
And eventually that's, something we'll want to tackle.
Very
is,
limited amount of space.
need space of some kind.
Permitted, it's just one room that used to be the
Do you
kindergarten.
have any long-range goals for
Get a
space?
building somewhere.
I mean, in a perfect world, we have our own building,
In the center of town somewhere, maybe.
Right, but-
Accessible.
we have our options are limited right now, so.
Okay.
Another thing, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No, I just wanted to speak
And
a little
you
bit.
are?
Pardon, I'm Chandra Bassard. I live in Dummerston,
Okay.
West Dummerston. I wanted to speak to the value of a small town library because I think that the way my family uses the library, we go to a lot of libraries. We definitely utilize, we're a homeschool family. We definitely utilize the Brattleboro Library. We sometimes go to the Putney Library. But the Dummerston Library is actually special and unique, I think, in the same way that many things about a small town are special and unique. And we choose to live in Dummerston, not in Brattleboro, and there's various reasons for that, right? But I think the personal relationships are really important. You know, my daughter and I volunteer at the library, and we can do that because it's a small and welcoming place. You know, my child is known by the librarian really well. You know, they'll be like, hey, there's some new books that I thought you might like. You know, it's like there's personal connections, and there's also, for us, it's really helpful to have a place in our town, you know, where that we can access the internet. This is another subject altogether, but after, you know, various natural disasters happening this year, our internet was down for months. And we depended on the library for a long time just to stay, you know, to get information, stay connected, to do Zoom meetings. I was down there all the time. So that's another piece as well, a service that's provided. And I wasn't the only person. I would see other people there as well.
Okay.
So I just kind of wanted to speak to those pieces, and the, you know, I feel like it's really, really important and valuable in many ways, and certainly.
Anybody have any questions or thoughts?
I had a question. With an assistant librarian, would that extend the hours beyond 15, or would the assistant work the same? Would that assistant overlap with the current librarian?
Both. I think it would be both. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking to extend my hours per week and add 10 hours of assistant, and there would be some crossover, but I'm hoping to get it to where the library has 20 open hours a week to the public.
So you'd go to 20 hours a week,
Mhm.
and the assistant would be 10 to get to 20 hours a week.
But you're only working 12, right?
Well, one administrative hour, so I get paid for 13, but 12 public service hours.
That being said, so again, Dina has one administrative hour per week, but as is the case with lots of jobs out there, I think that are based more on like a yearly salary, you're doing lots of work outside of the workplace. I used to be a teacher, and I know I did so much work outside of the classroom. And same thing goes with Dina in terms of grant writing she does, and other, like we just launched our website today, and she worked for a while on that. So there's lots of behind the scenes stuff that goes beyond that 1 hour. Right now she's just doing it on her own time.
We'll need it hours still.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up one of the things the Energy Committee has talked with the Community Center about is the idea of making the Community Center building what's sometimes termed a resilience hub. And you brought up access to Wi-Fi during extended outages around town. There are other opportunities or needs that could be addressed through the community center. A place to charge cell phones if people's phone power is out. Backup power available to power a water pump if people can't pump water from their own houses. So, some of these opportunities could work well with a library to, better integrate the library needs with other community center needs.
We already offer things like that. We offer people the ability to charge their cell phones and to come and use us as a warming station or cooling station when the weather is extreme. It's just, again, we're only there for, 15 hours a week. So, yeah, I think there are lots of things that a community center could do, and a lot of libraries do function as community centers, but we are limited to our four walls and nothing more forever and ever.
There's no generator. There's no generator.
The Westminster West Library, do you have any statistics for them?
Not here, no.
They are a very teeny-weeny library with one librarian who's been there for a long, long time. She probably doesn't get paid very well. That's about all I know. I've met her on Zoom meetings. I've seen the inside of that library through Zoom. What's the question about them?
It was just another, something to compare.
And Marlboro would be another one because they have about Dummerston, I didn't see
I'm Oh,
that.
sorry, which one?
Marlboro,
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't know anything
Yeah,
about
we're-
that.
you know, they do about the town of Dummerston.
So,
We aren't necessarily expecting you to make a decision tonight.
Oh, we're not going to make one tonight.
Great, right.
we might have more questions for you over the course of, we have to have the budget finalized, towards the end of January. So, are there any other questions? Please. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
I just wanna really encourage everyone to really read over the information that we gave, because I included, there are some references to various reports around the state that would be helpful.
Right, there's, the state just published a,
The salaries.
results of a study of libraries throughout the whole state.
Yeah.
It's available online.
Yeah, it's long, but it's definitely worth looking at.
Right, yeah.
And there was a VPR program a week or so ago that I caught a little bit of on libraries and sort of the challenges libraries in Vermont are going through. Interesting piece.
Even the Vermont Department of Libraries is suffering. They need money from the state to keep themselves going, so you can see.
And see, that's why, going back to what I said about, membershiping with other towns is a way to do that,
Well, we do share books back and forth
Right.
because we can't keep
Exactly.
very
It's
large,
just-
so that every week we have books that people request that they have to come in and pick up after we get them from the various libraries throughout the state in order to, get them what they're asking for.
It's your library loan, right? And your website, you have a new website that's up,
It's in progress, but it's coming along,
okay?
yeah.
It is launched though, it is.
Right, so people could check that out. Great. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
For your time. Thanks for listening.
Let's see. What else do we have to? Oh, it's fire department. All right.
Us?
Yeah, sure.
Four of those people.
How many, we have to.
We'll take three. You should be.
Thank you.
So,
Take one packet, pass it around. I'm gonna try to use this to answer questions. I've got my own notes, so.
okay, and just for record, we already introduced ourselves.
Yes, so I'm the newly elected Fire Chief Larry Pratt. This is the newly elected Deputy Chief Leon Dunbar. Newly elected Vice President Dan Riddlehoover.
Who's also the newly elected or appointed lieutenant.
Yes, exactly. We're also a lieutenant.
Who
Then
else?
we have firefighter Evans back here and Lieutenant Shaw, who's been a member for years.
Great, thanks for coming in. Oh, question?
Just a quick question. Are there any extra copies of what they're asking for? Because I think there's a number of people here that would like them. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay,
One copy.
we don't have any idea what you're asking for.
Okay.
So,
Fire stuff.
Yeah, fire department, so I'm gonna use you as a segue. I think your interest is a large reason why we would like to have this discussion with you guys. And we experienced quite plainly at our last special town meeting where we were voting on the supplemental funds to buy the fire engine that there is, I think, quite a bit of concern amongst a significant portion of this town that funds given to the fire department are not being conservatively or responsibly or appropriately spent, or certainly not with the amount of open book record keeping and availability that people would like to see from the fire department. And so, we would like to come and sort of lay out in full this, this whole packet, and I've got a handful of different financial statements to walk you through to give you a little bit of context about the fire department, how it's currently budgeted, what its plans are, how we are operating, how we try to make financial decisions, and sort of the context in which we're trying to make those by providing the level of fire service, fire protection that we do. We're planning to, after that last special town meeting, we took it up as a vote, decided, let's take all of these documents, we're gonna put them all up on our website, so all the things that are in this packet are gonna, in short order, be available, in permanent on our website for everyone able to review. So you'll see our budget to actuals for last year, the budget for the next year, our tax filings, our town contributions, our capital plans. Those are all going to just live on one page of the website together. So if people forget or they're curious in the off months, non-budgetary months, we hope that they'll go look or give us questions and come find us. So the first financial document I was hoping we could go through is our budget. So the West Dummerston Fire Department, this town has a fire department budget of $115,418. That starts on, for you guys, page 1 of this little packet I've assembled. And you'll see the different sources of revenue that come into allowing that budget. There is 46,000. Sorry, this is the budget of the year that we have just begun as a fire department. The money that is in that budget for the fiscal year that we're currently in was voted on by the voters of the town back in this past March. So that number was $61,918 appropriated from the town taxes into the fire department's budget, into its, I think, general appropriation, or whatever you guys would call that, not a truck purchase. That represents 54% of our total budget. To go with that is $46,500 worth of fundraising activities. So that's a mix of our fund drive letter, check your mailboxes here in the next couple weeks, and a few fundraisers that we do every year. Some old that you will recognize, like the pancake breakfast, so we take advantage of to open our doors and let people in. Others that are smaller, have fewer public resident involvement, but are really focused on us trying to make money. That's the goal of the fundraiser. So we have a golf tournament that sort of exemplifies that. That's a new thing we've done, I think, 3 times now, and a barbecue. There's the $61,918 that comes from the town. There is $5,000 budgeted that comes from insurance. So we have the ability at certain motor vehicle accidents to bill insurers for our time, expenses, mileage, things like that. It's formulaic. We keep digital records on the software online that we are required to aggregate for FEMA so that we're eligible to apply for grants. And a piece of that, the software is built knowing that the fire departments around the country have the ability to collect that information and bill it. So that's something we just started doing last year, and we made, I think, $6,600. We were able to recoup expenses doing that.
Could I stop you for just a second?
Sure.
You said 5,000. I wish I had gotten this ahead of time so I could have gone over it before just now, but we will be looking at it before we do anything anyways. But you said I see the $15,418 you were talking about. Then you said 5,000 for insurance.
Motor vehicle. So that's under revenue, motor vehicle billing, near the top of, third of the way down page 1.
Okay, so we're going back. Okay, we're going backwards.
In actuals, we took in 66, 64.
Okay.
We have budgeted to recoup $5,000 worth of expenses, billable services against insurers.
And just to clarify a little bit, we don't charge Dummerston residents typically. There's extenuating circumstances where we may, like DUI or something, but on a basis, we don't charge Dummerston residents. This is strictly out-of-state drivers. or out of town drivers.
It also doesn't bill the drivers, it bills their insurance.
Yes.
For things like our use of boom pads and, absorbent materials, there's, formula in there for like miles and hours on the trucks and things like that. That's how that money gets calculated. And then the last item is $2,000 miscellaneous contributions, so that's things like interest, bank deposits, things like that. So that's where our revenues come from. If you go down from that, about halfway down that first page through the whole second page, you can see line by line where we spend that money. Some of the large areas of expenses, that I think the biggest single line item in there is our dispatch fee. So it costs us, where's that number? Last year, the actual number was $30,702, and that's just to be dispatched. So if we had no facilities and no fire trucks and we just, and we had our own pagers already, it would cost us $30,000 just to be told that we have an emergency. I think one of the next biggest line items in there is just the category of maintenance. So equipment maintenance, vehicle maintenance, equipment maintenance services, things like having the pumps on the trucks serviced biannually and retested. We also send our air cylinders back for hydrostatic pressures to make sure they're safe to fill back up and that they're also holding pressure. And then our insurance is another large 5-figure line item. It's about $11,000. That covers building and auto insurance, which the town, I'm not sure exactly how it works. The town, we get it through Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and the town pays for it and we reimburse the town. So that's an expense that we cut that check to the town. So that's where that line item goes. You can see utilities on there.
Which I found one error in this already. There's no way propane for Center Station is $110. I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
So we'll have to get you a clean copy.
We used to have one account, 2 locations, and I think they've separated it into 2 accounts, and so the line is now 2 accounts.
My prediction is that he's got 2,500. Paul, our treasurer, has 2,500 for next year, so I'm thinking that was 2,110. He's figuring in for inflation. But we'll get a clean copy over to you guys.
So, I'm not gonna bore you guys down to like the $300 line items. You can read some of those items yourself, but those are some of the high points. So that's our sources of revenue currently, and that's our planned uses of that same revenue. That's kind of the world that we're living in as part of it.
And I just wanted to add, in that $30,000 dispatch line item, there's also other programs that we have to pay for in order to make, so for anything, for us to be able to qualify for any grants or anything like that, there's certain paperwork that has to be filed on a federal level.
And a state level.
And a state level. So, mutual aid, who dispatches us, they put information into a computer, and we actually have to buy software and pay for it. And that merges their information with our information that we enter on our side, and it's like a 3 process thing that we have to pay for that software yearly. On top of that as well. I mean, it's not as high as that, but
I think Paul's got down 4,000.
Yeah.
It's in here, yeah, it's $4,700 on top of our dispatching fee to be able to access their data
So just to be able to apply for a grant, if we don't do any of that,
and keep our medical licensure for our rescue squad. Required to document those things. So that's the operating budget. That's currently the all-in budget, right? So that's all of the dollars in and all of the dollars out. What you'll maybe notice if you've got a keen eye is that there are not very many line items in there that are capital purchases. There are some in there. There's a $5,000 radio / pagers equipment line in there, and then there's a line in there for personal protective equipment. So that's my segue to the next page in your packet. That is a capital needs schedule. So I'll also just for a little context on this, what our goal is as a fire department is to be able to continue to provide this town with the same level of services that we currently have. It has been very difficult in recent years to have our revenues keep pace with our costs of operating expenses, even if we don't consider funding our capital needs at all. That 115 number has grown, and it's grown substantially and it's grown quickly. Dispatch, I've only been on the department for 6 years, but dispatch fee when I got on, I think was $17,000. It's $30,000 now. Insurance used to be $6,000, it's $11,000 now. Those numbers, year over year over year are rising, and they're rising even faster than inflation is going up. We kind of learned that lesson again as a group with the cost of the truck, and every month that took fire, every day we missed or whatever it was, we lost our pricing and got more painful. We've been living that, and so this capital needs schedule shows the items that we have today. And there's a column in there for the year we purchased it, the WDFD planned life of that item, which is not always the same as the manufacturer suggested life of that item. It's either as long or longer in every single case. And then in a handful of cases, our equipment is in some circumstances kind of regulated by NFPA code. Our turnout gear, our helmets, our CBA air cylinders, we have to replace those when they hit a certain age, or we're no longer even eligible to go to the State Fire Academy to do trainings. They'll size up our stuff and say, I'm sorry, this is out of date and we can't let you into the building. You can't participate in our class. Go see if you can find somebody else who will trade. So there are some items in there that, they have an expiration date and we need to use them. Then there are some items in there that don't, right? So they're just pieces of equipment. They last as long as we can take care of them, and that's our goal. We don't want to have to buy them again. They work just fine. But in a lot of cases, the remaining life is zero. And so this capital budget just shows that we don't have the funding set aside to we're not budgeting the money to replace some of these items as they fail. And so what we're up against as we're kind of increasingly pushing this ball uphill is that we will begin shortly in the next couple of years being forced to make decisions about which items we are going to replace and which ones we are not going to be able to replace. It'll just be like a dollars and cents decision then. And that's in the context of our funding and our revenue limitations, right? We also pay taxes. We're also Dummerston residents, and we're people with day jobs and kids and all the same budget pressures that everyone else in town has. We're not special now and everything. And so we just wanted to kind of explain that, because I don't think that whole situation is something that is public knowledge or well appreciated, or that people can go through and look at themselves. You have new department leadership sitting in front of you that you wouldn't have had last year, and a big piece of that reason, I think, is because what we had been doing was not working very well, and we were not adjusting sales quickly enough to fix it fast. And so from where I sit, I sort of apologize to you guys to arrive with a broken boat, but it's, it'd be irresponsible of us to continue to just say things are fine, we're doing great. That's not the case.
And I was hoping that you guys could see by the turnout of those of us that came, that everybody in the department cares, and we just want everybody, to be aware. Like Dan said, we're all taxpayers, we all have day jobs, and we're all trying to do this and make things the best for the town.
I think if you go on your line for engine 3, that's the one that you just purchased, and you've got down 120,000.
Yeah.
You gotta change that to 125,000.
Okay.
Because of the extra 100,000 that was given at,
Is that paid over 5 years?
yes.
So that's money.
Oh, it is the one.
So yeah, that line is I think something interesting to discuss as well, because I mentioned it at that meeting that our town buys our dump trucks or our loaders or all those other pieces of equipment. We buy them in a year. We say it's going to last 8 years or 10 years or 20 years or whatever, and then we start putting away an 1/8 or 1/10 or 20th of the purchase price annually after we purchase it. And then on that year, when it comes due, we have the money set aside to do it. Our fire trucks are the only thing we buy that's the other way. We buy it and then we pay for it. And so, that doesn't make sense to us. It doesn't make sense to me, I'll say. I think the way the town purchases everything else makes a lot more sense. How we flip that is like a 10-year
Something we all have to
migration
work on,
problem. Paying an extra 20 grand a year in tax in interest sucks as a taxpayer. I don't like that. I'd rather not do that. I don't know how to switch in the short term in a way that can let us all avoid doing that.
Would be easy to switch if you came up with a capital plan and you came up with a capital plan, you figured out how long you really need a truck. And you just bring it to the voters. We put it in the budget that on a capital plan, just like the capital budget we have right now.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
to me, it's not a hard thing to do. The hard part to me would be how long do you need, do you really need a truck every 7 years?
Right, so we've got
do you need-
3 trucks in the last 20 years, so that's one
Every 7 years.
Yeah.
But the question for me is, right now for you, is you only have 2 trucks right now that work. Right? I mean, that's what we were told at the last meeting, because the pump on the other truck is no good, so you don't have that truck. I mean, that's what was, and we asked about fixing that pump, and it was gonna be $30,000, so you didn't wanna do it. So you're running with 2 trucks is what I took from that meeting. Am I wrong in saying that?
Essentially, yes, you're right. We're not gonna
Explain
speak for
essentially that, 'cause that's.
We're not gonna speak for previous leadership, but we feel there could have been a little bit more usage out of that pump, but we also recognize the fact that people's lives are on the other end of that hose. Do we wanna push it until that? I think that's where the last leadership head was at in asking for that. Is that, people's lives are on the other end of that hose with that pump. Do you wanna push it until it's not good? The very last drop of not being, but we did have a quote for the 30,000 or whatever.
Right, but I guess I'm confused with that answer. Because your answer's saying there's, and I wish, honestly, you guys, this is me personally speaking.
Mhm.
I appreciate everything you guys do, okay? I honestly do. And I think for you guys' safety, and I always hope you guys are safe at what you do, and you have the safe equipment to do it. But what you just said, and so I know you guys always use, or let me rephrase it, you used to always say, safety, safety, safety. I think everybody knows and we respect the safety part of it. I hope that everybody does. If you don't, people do. You guys do put your lives on the line, and we appreciate that. But you just said to me, on the other end of that is safety, the pump being somebody, safety, somebody's life at the other end of that pump. If you're not using that pump, or if you're using that pump, you're actually still saving somebody with that if it can be used. If it can't be used, either replace it or just don't use that. But, so what I'm saying is I was under the impression that it just was not being used. So I guess I'm confused what you're saying with the safety on the other end of that pump.
So we're currently using the truck as a automobile accident truck not relying on the pump. So we're trying to utilize it as much as we can to get what we can out of it to protect the town. That pump is not, it's tired. We would be able to use it in a backup if we had no other choice. But what Larry was trying to say is we can't rely on it to say, yes, we're using the pump. We use the engine to go to car accidents. We have our extraction tools on it, that kind of stuff. So we didn't just park it. And we are continuing to maintain it because the as good a condition as it's in, when they come to take it, the more money we're gonna get in trade.
Right. Now,
Real quick, just before you go on, of the 3 engines, which one is being replaced with the new one? That's gonna become engine 3?
Engine 3, yeah.
And which one doesn't have the pump that doesn't work?
Engine 3.
Oh, okay,
So it was also 24 years old.
right. I just wanna make sure I had.
As we get to this discussion point on it, it's had frame repairs, it's had some electrical gremlins in it. It's perfectly suited for toting around extrication tools, cribbing, power tools, hand tools, boom pads. It does backboard, medical bag, AD. Like it does great at those things. We don't draft with it if we can. We don't take it out training. We don't maintain or service our hydrants around town with it. We would never take it to another town on a mutual aid call. It is decidedly third in line for fire protection. It's got some uses to us in that, it's paid for and it's got some tools on it. So we keep trying it.
So is the 120 that's in the general capital plan is the same 120 as this?
yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So these numbers don't look as painful when you realize that 120 is already accounted for in our.
Yes, that's been voted on. Yeah, town voted for that. Yeah, so at the top of this, you see in that year 1, those top 2 lines are the pieces that are covered in our 2024 fiscal budget. And so, that's kind of a good example of the fact that we're funding a portion of our planned capital needs, but there are also some items on there that have 0 life years left. And when they die, we're just gonna get a little bit closer to death ourselves. And those needs will just roll over. We're just gonna add that they're summative, so they'll just go to the next year. Will be, instead of $50,000, we'll have $65,000 worth of stuff we just buy that could go bad that year.
So I guess what I'd like to go back down to, I'm going to the big numbers for you.
Yeah.
And, you've got in, 28, $500,000 for engine 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to fund it that way.
No, that's where I'm going with you. We're still funding engine 3 in that year, and for 2 more years. So how old will engine 2 be in 28?
It'll be 20 years old.
Okay,
So I wish we had gone back 15 years ago and started contributing to it, but we didn't do that, and so we've only got 5 years between now and then. And that, at that vehicle's 20-year life age, to have come up with this replacement. I don't think we're gonna do that.
but I mean,
If I can just step in further, I think that's where you're getting at, how do we go about it, you said it'd be easy, but that's what he was talking about, we're already still paying for one and we're
right, and I'm
dive into it now.
right, and that's what I'm saying is, you went 24 years with the other one. You've got a new station over there. You've got over here. You've got, and that's what I was told was one of the reasons was the problem with engine 3 was because it was in this station here. It was some of the rust problems on the frame. This is. That was the information I was getting, was that the rust problem, the reason the frame wasn't that good on that engine was because it was over in, parked in this station over here.
Can I ask a question?
That's correct.
Okay,
The engine got,
Did that station have a dirt floor?
it did not, but the truck got full of rust. Full of
That was
rust.
with the old station.
That's the old station.
that's what I'm saying,
Mold and-
with the new station, don't we think these might be able to last a little longer than the 20 years? I mean, you got that one that's 24 years, and this is where I'm going with this, is if you went 24 years, then you'd be out here, where you could start the payment here and go out.
I think that might be a great interim step.
I'm just saying
I can't
that-
say it'll last those extra 4, I don't, you know.
We just had the motor almost come apart on us. We just paid $3,900 because we took it in for an oil change in the engine. The oil was full of metal shavings because the oil pump was coming apart inside. Had we not taken it in for an oil change, then chances are we wouldn't have an engine in that.
Right. But I mean, then that's good maintenance.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what I'm saying is, you know, the other, you know, I know we listened to a salesman tell us about refurbishing it, and, wait, just a minute, and if I go to a car dealer, no car dealer is gonna tell me, oh, let's refurbish your car, let's buy a new one. And that's what that gentleman was, he was your dealer.
That was Garth.
Yes.
So what, I'm gonna step out of line. What does this board think about used fire engines? I was told you were 100% against it.
No.
I don't think so.
No,
We
and we were-
relied on the fire department
So,
to give us information.
again, we're
Thank goodness.
in a new administration at the fire department. I have to choose my words carefully. I have a tendency to put my foot in my mouth.
Take your time.
I was not in favor of the truck that we got. I think our town should have been able to use a used fire truck. We're all aware of our neighbor Chesterfield. They have way more money in Chesterfield than they have in Dummerston. They purchase used fire trucks. They refurbish them. They've never had any problems with it. As Lewis said, I knew that, but I'm terrible with names. You spoke with a salesman. If I'm a salesman and I'm trying to sell you a pump, I work on fuel pumps, I'm gonna say, buy a new one. You know, it's more money in my pocket. If I'm gonna talk refurbished equipment, I'm gonna go to my service repair shop, or maybe my repair shop and Dan's repair shop, and I'm gonna ask opinions on it. The other thing with saying that is we buy commercial cabin chassis, Pepsi trucks. How many Pepsi trucks do you see driving down the road that aren't rusty? Not many. There's a difference in quality. So if you were to buy a fire truck, custom built fire truck, you pay, maybe $100,000 more or less. When I was in Hinsdale, we spec'd out a truck in 2001 with a stainless steel wire. There's no rust on the truck. That truck can be refurbished. We had a custom fire truck that was a 1989 Pierce. Pierce is a top line fire truck. If you overlook at that fire truck in the station right now, it looks better than any of the used trucks in our stations. There is no rust on it. That truck is completely able to be refurbished and put back on the road. So with that being said, there's a lot of options we can do. If our truck doesn't last 8 years, if it lasts 8 years, we could look at buying a used custom fire truck that it's come from a city that's got a bunch of miles and a bunch of hours, and as long as it's no rust and the frame's good, then you can refurbish the pump for $30,000 and maybe put a new engine in it for $10,000 or $15,000, and a new transmission for another $10,000.
Yeah, so
That's what
I
You still have, there's still options, but like I said, we're willing to work with you guys. We're not here looking to say,
we don't want to be prescriptive of this is our only solution, this is our only need. We recognize that you guys are more than half of our total current budget, and in the future, probably more as a percentage. And so, we want to have a better relationship that can sit here and discuss those topics and hammer out, walk through iterations of things and figure out what works for everybody, what's possible, and how can we do that. I don't think that has been our department's MO as we have gone to meetings in the past, so.
so, another thing is, Louis, you work for the fire department, or the highway department. You're well aware, you guys are well aware, commercial cabin chassis comes with a certain size engine. Whenever we leave a fire department, what way do we go? Especially in the West Station, we go up. With a custom fire truck, you can put an engine in that's suitable to get the truck up the hill at more than 15 or 20 miles an hour when you're trying to go to a call. So that's my sales pitch, but the old mentality that a custom truck is double the price of a commercial cab is false. And it's all about how you spec it and what route you go.
They can be a bit more, but lifespan wise, they end up being cheaper because you can refurbish them. It's worth refurbishing them.
Louis, I'm curious, from the highway department perspective, we've always, as I understand it, made a decision to go with new highway vehicles, grader, tractor, trucks. What's your thought on that same argument of buying used and refurbishing?
I wouldn't agree with it personally for our highway department.
Because you're talking, I mean, we've got, I think it's the second newest truck up there already has 47,000 miles on it. And so that's out.
Way more use.
Way more use and a lot harder use.
Yeah.
Goes out the door.
Right.
The vehicles and the equipment for the highway department, for the road crew, work non-stop flow. Non-stop.
So that's,
Where the fire department spends 90% of its life sitting in the garage.
and a lot of the miles on their trucks are coming up from Florida to go to the, because they come up from Florida, right? I mean, most
Well,
of them come up from Florida, so and they drive them up. So, if you look at a fire truck and you look at the miles
take
on it,
2,500 miles off.
yeah, take that right off the top of it, and you're sitting there saying, wow, this doesn't have hardly any miles on it, And they are, what, 90% of the time?
Yeah, our hours and miles are a lot closer.
In a garage.
Yeah.
So.
That's helpful, thanks.
So my last, second to last, is a town comparison. I appreciate the library for doing that same exercise and breaking the ice on me because I did the same thing. So I went and gleaned from the town reports of Dummerston, Guilford, Putney. New Brook is one fire department that is the consolidated department of Newfane and Brookline. So took a little bit of extra sleuthing, but that's theirs there. And then Marlboro, and then just for a laugh, there's Brattleboro down there at the bottom. And it takes a minute to soak in this many little data pieces, but I think what's interesting to me that stood out is the fire departments that haven't been publishing their budgets in their town reports are some of the not as well funded departments in the region. In retrospect, that's probably not surprising. If you look at Guilford or Marlboro or Putney as kind of the most comparable towns that are right next to us, calls per 1,000, very similar. Total annual call volume, close. Total budgets, very different. Where that funding comes from, very different. There's a lot of discussion about I remember at our last last special meeting about, well, how much is it per person? And then how that's kind of like a very difficult thing for a select board to say, because that's not how taxes are levied, they're levied on per thousands. So the reason that I have population is there, because it kind of dictates demand on your fire department. What's interesting to see is like how many calls per 1,000 residents are in the 140s. And then Putney is greater, and it's largely due to the universities. It's the schools there. They go to a large number of burn popcorn, automatic fire alarm calls, and medical calls on those school campuses every year. And then it wouldn't surprise me if that was the difference there. So that's all just to say, like, the requests of us, between us and these other towns, is pretty similar.
Does that include the purchase of the trucks?
Yeah, so on the right-hand side, there's some notes. So it's a little bit different in the towns, a little bit differently. In Guilford, they one cut check and they say, make sure your capital plan is nice and sharp because you're on your own for your trucks. So that's included in that. And then in Putney, they do it separately. It's a municipal department, so they do it differently. They've got a general budget and capital budget, and they buy their apparatus that same way.
We're
And then salaries.
We're paying $125,000 a year capital for the fire truck. That's not reflected in this here then.
Not in this fiscal year, it's not. And that's one of my, like, as a resident, that's one of my complaints about our way of doing that, is that it makes it $120,000 a year on the years that we do it, and on the years that we're not paying for one, it's zero. I'd rather it just be 25 every year for 20 years and it just flatter.
Thank you.
This is my last pitch and then I'll stop. But I'll also just say we're 100% volunteer department, so there's nobody who gets paid for any of the several thousand hours a year that the department puts up for the town and training and classes and things like that. We're not asking for any.
Does any of these, which ones do on here pay? You have that down here?
Yep, the town of Guilford does $22,000 a year to its fire department, which they dole out as, I think, gas cards, gift cards based on like how many calls you went to as a percentage of the total and how many people went, and then they divide it so it's even. The town of Putney does like an hourly response. So they have a $15,000 to $37,000 that they divvy up, per hour. And then they also have a paid full-time chief position. Brattleboro is obviously 28 people.
Right.
Yes.
Ruth Hoffman, resident, also just happened to be town auditor. I think based on everything that was said, and Louis is talking about when we pay in advance and when we save up, even though there would be some years where we'd have to put more into the capital plan to switch to paying, I think in the long run we would save interest. And so we should really think about that, so that just like the highway department, we're saving up and then we buy a vehicle and we paid for it, we don't have interest, instead of getting a loan and interest is just going up and up. And I think the town, I'm a taxpayer, in 1 or 2 years, or 3, whatever minimum time to make that switch, we have to both be paying for a truck that we bought and saving up for the next, but I think then
that's the part that's
we'd be saving in the long run.
Right. And that's the thing, and I do appreciate you guys coming with this, and I wish
we'd have done it 20
years ago when it's been asked for years, because I've been on the select board and asked for it many of times and never even came close to anything like this. And we've mentioned before about doing it this way in a capital plan. And I appreciate you guys talking about the refurbishing, and that's where what you guys would have to come up with is real numbers on and let me not say real numbers, because it's real numbers when you're going to buy it. Up until that year, that number can go up and down. You know, it's the year you're actually going to buy it, we want to have the money in there. So it's just like this year, we upped the amount we put into the capital budget, just to make sure we were gonna have enough if something happens. So if you're gonna refurbish a truck, you're not gonna say you need $600,000. If you're gonna buy a new one, according to what it was gonna be, it's gonna probably be $750,000 with these new engines they're talking about putting in them. So you gotta figure out what you wanna do with your next truck that you're gonna get. Are you gonna get a new one? Are you gonna look into refurbishing it? We need to know that type of number at some point, so we can put that into our capital budget. And so it'll continue to go forward. So those numbers, what you're going to do, you have to decide at some point what you're going to do. We can put a number in there for a fire truck for that year, and you know, then we just have to raise more taxes each year. You know, like you said, the 50,000 this year, 50,000 that year, until we get up to your truck. We'd like to have at least 10 years out on the capital budget. So it's just something that, you're gonna have to decide, do we need a new truck? Can we refurbish a truck? Can we buy a used truck? Because I don't think there's any select board members here that would say that you couldn't buy a used truck. I can't imagine anybody ever saying.
I can't remember in the history of my being on a select
Thank you.
a select board member that would have not gone for that deal.
Exactly. So I mean, it's back in your court on that type of thing, and then we have to figure out what you gave us for a budget year, that portion of it. But to get to the capital budget, you would have to give us a little more information, I think.
So one of the reasons I brought up that used one is for this transition specifically. So who's to say that we're gonna do that with every truck, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You
Right.
gotta decide what you're gonna do.
We have to come through a serious transition, and
Could be a way to
this
ease
could
the
be,
load
this
up.
could be a way to ease that transition. And then if you ended up, if we as a whole ended up going with a new one the next time, then that one could most definitely be refurbished to lengthen
In the
its.
20 years,
It's
it's be
life.
refurbished.
Yeah, for a minimal
So-
cost, and
right.
have essentially another new fire truck for a minimal
Because you
cost.
think about it, even if you spent, say, 200,000 or 300,000 to refurbish a truck, and you got 15 years out of it, that's cheaper than buying a new truck to last you 20 years.
This spring, Larry and I texted back quite a bit, and I mean, I could go on my phone and find a used fire truck right now for 250, 300,000 that would work, that's fully running, that doesn't need anything. It comes with a guarantee for 30 days, everybody's bought a used car, right? Cause, I mean, it's being used, you can't guarantee anything, for that long, but it's a good way to transition and look at things and.
Have they cashed, we haven't paid any money on that.
But we have signed a check, we have signed an agreement. Well, yeah, Rick signed an agreement.
Right.
Or they did, actually.
The trucks have kind of dominated the discussion, and
Right now, I wanted to get back to what you're actually asking for.
yeah, that too. So that's what I was
Real numbers.
So, the capital needs page with the fire equipment section up there at the top, not the apparatus, but the fire equipment, like the items we're not funding. We'd like to be able to budget to purchase those items, we're not buying these items without more help from somewhere either. If anyone has any great fundraising ideas or donors, we'll take that too, but,
So it looks like down at the bottom,
one thing I'll just add is fundraisers can be a bit unpredictable as well, is because our golf tournament could totally take a toll one year if we have a major rainstorm or something. We're looking to get a little bit more consistency, not only for the department, but the taxpayers as well, across the board.
So for a nice easy number, our total budget, operating budget, which includes only those 2 capital items, so not the whole capital purchase, less our fundraising expenses, which there's no reason the town should fund fundraising expenses, they need to net themselves, would be $102,000. So if we're at 61 now, and it costs us 102 just to cover this coming year's capital expenses, we'd like to request that figure and then allow our fundraising efforts to be attributed fully towards future capital needs. So, like as we come back next year, or as this gets put into our budget, like you'll see that exact same dollar amount reflected back again in capital reserves. So again,
What exactly are you asking us for?
$101,968.
Which is essentially last year's plus your 2025 capital not kind of adjust.
Yes.
Those 2 numbers add.
Pretty much, right.
So 2005, 2015, 10.
Is that on one of these sheets?
It's not. It's last year's, it's the current, it's the year we're in today, fiscal budget.
62.
Budget, the 115,418 minus our fundraising expenses.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Um,
So if we can do that, we'll still do all those same fundraisers. We'll just take whatever proceeds we get out of it and we will put it into that capital thing.
so there's something else that I wanted to mention too, so, like, this is our complete operating budget. So that we use us nothing extra. So for example, we have this beautiful new station right over here. We don't have any storage. So we just put that new propane tank in, and I'm just using this as an example, that we don't have to snow blow out to for cleanup. So we've had a snow blower donated to us. We don't really have any place to store that. I mean, obviously during the winter, we'll keep it in the truck bay so it's warm and everything, but there's no place to put anything. So we talked about putting a shed next to the building just for like overstock and everything. But we don't have any extra money, so like if we wanted to take some fundraising money to buy a shed or put up a little outbuilding for an addition.
Might cost us a piece of equipment.
Yeah, we don't have any
Or
extra
will
to do
cost
that.
us a piece of equipment.
So it's just something to throw out there, like, we said, hey, let's use this fundraising money to do that, but we can't, because we need it to go to our operating budget.
There are grants out there for solar too, that as a nonprofit fire department, we get like a large portion to match on, but like we don't, like, we don't have the sort of like reserves in the bank to be able to make flexible choices to things, because all of our money is gonna come in this year and it's all gonna go out next year.
So we have a huge roof on the west station that we could put solar on. We should be able to pay for our power bills for both stations. But again,
And we get half of it paid for.
But didn't you just receive $42,000 from an estate? that
Yes.
A resident left you?
Yeah, we did. There was a.
And what's the plans for that?
right now it's a cushion.
Yeah, it's gonna go right into that capital budget. So, we're hundreds of thousands shy, and we need to not be scared of having an extra $40,000 if we know we have $170,000 bills coming due in 4 or 5 years. We need to have a plan to sit on that money. That's the reason I included in that back, the very last page of your packet is a draft snapshot of our bank account balances. And this is after that was deposited. So we got a woman passed away and left her home, sold her home and donated the proceeds to 5 nonprofits in the area. We were one of them, and we took home $44,000, which is included in there. Our bank account balances, this is something, our bank account structure is something we just discussed last night actually, is a little bit wonky in that those are actual different accounts at the bank, as opposed to one singular account with just an accounting software keeping the budget. So we're gonna do away with that practice, and that's gonna be one checking and one savings account. And then it still gets accounted for, but not
Hopefully we can gain some
not at
interest
a
on it.
bank, yeah, in our own software. And so that figure, we feel that amount of cash on hand is prudent for a department with a budget the size we are and the sort of can't go dark responsibility we have to maintain things. Like if our furnace goes down tomorrow, we don't get to just choose not to do it. We have to replace that furnace or our fire trucks will turn into popsicles and we won't be able to put water on anything. If our radio goes down, if our well goes down, we have sort of more of an obligation to maintain a higher level of facilities as emergency responders than do most homeowners or small businesses.
Can I ask a question? Sure. Do you reinvest your money? Right now, you can get a CD.
5%.
5%. And you've got, if you was to put, and it's for 14 months.
For 10 months you can do it.
That's something our treasurer has mentioned and he's looking into currently, actually.
But it might not be for business.
No, we're eligible to have money market funds invested in treasuries.
Because
So
we're private, you are privately owned.
we're a nonprofit organization. Yeah.
So we actually discussed this last night.
Good, good.
And we're trying to move forward, but the new administration's only been in place for a month, so, we've been working hard this past month.
I know.
And we just,
I was a former fireman, fire.
Oh, thank you.
For town, I was assistant chief back in the 60s.
Yeah.
For Dummerston?
Yeah, West Dummerston.
Fire station.
Oh, nice.
Just for
And I spent many, many hours building a fire truck. We bought a chassis and we was able to buy a new midship, 500-gallon midship. And we took and we made a fire truck, our own, the men in the department. And of course, at that time, we didn't have anybody from over this side of the hill. It was all done by the west
Why
side.
don't we refurbish that one?
Huh?
Why don't we just refurbish that one and stop using it?
To be honest, that probably was a better truck.
101, 968. And if you want a narrative, it's the total budget less the fundraising expenses from this year. So it's saying that if our budget goes up next year because dispatch goes up again, we'll cover that increase. It's not gonna go down, is what we've seen from our expenses, unless utility, fuel drops significantly or it's a lucky year for maintenance or something.
Do you get fuel from the town garage?
We have gas cards and we do occasionally have the ability to fill up with fuel from the town garage, so I'm not sure how that's
I think you guys,
arranged.
that's what you use to fill up the engine, right?
We have had, yes, we have that arrangement that we can fill our diesel trucks up at the town garage.
Right.
We don't always, sometimes we don't have access, so we use our gas card to go get it in town. And we fuel our two pickups up at the Erosion station. But yeah,
The building is locked and alarmed and we're not all privy to that, nor do we really want to be, so we can't always do that.
could I interest you in a new key management system for your fuel system?
But you'll have to buy new.
That's a true statement.
Of course it is, you salesman.
Any other?
So that's all.
Yeah, that's.
No big deal, huh?
You see my follow-up email? Not according to the budget, but going into ARPA. I had sent you another.
Yes, you had.
Just before we adjourn and let other people speak, I'd like to move into that if we're all set with the budget.
I'm very
I would like to just say thank you very much for your responsiveness from the meetings this summer. I think everybody does totally support the fire department and recognize the tremendous energy and effort and time that all the volunteers put in. And looking at your budget, again, with no paid staff, I can see, we all know how much time it takes to do something like this. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your responsiveness.
Okay.
I was just trying to find the page.
So, you want me to start?
Yeah, I'm just pulling up the
So,
estimates.
Larry pulled up an estimate that we received for, the ARPA money for lighting at the station.
The West Street
It
Station.
was in the vicinity of 16,000.
16,905, you guys, and you guys had a check for that.
To us, so basically the lighting that was done only cost 6,000.
6,350 for what's been done to this date.
So there's roughly a $10,000 difference. So previous administration was gonna use that money to expand lighting around the station, around. We don't feel that there's a need to do all of that. So we're wondering if we can reallocate some of that to stuff that is more needed. We have holes in our ceiling, so the heat just,
At West Street Station,
Those
where
are-
they took out the old furnaces.
they just kind of took the furnaces out and put in the new ones, and there's just empty holes. It looks, it's in desperate need of a paint job, and a few pieces of siding need to be replaced and stuff. We're just wondering if we could kind of reallocate some of that money for a more useful thing instead of adding lighting that.
I don't know if that's the way the ARPA actually works. I mean, I think it should go back to the ARPA. You've got to go get the estimates, because that ARPA funding shouldn't have, you should have had a few estimates, and that estimate should have been what that came out to. I don't know how it got by that, because the way that's working, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're supposed to go out and get the estimates, and those are supposed to be what it is spent on. I think if you had extra, which I don't know how that should have happened.
Did any quotes come in? We just have one.
Wait, I have the one here that
There was only one.
Painting quote.
No, we're talking about the lighting estimate, the quote that was given.
And so then what I think would happen is it would go back into the ARPA fund, and you guys would have to go figure out what you want done, and then bring that back to us.
which is what we were bringing to you now, hopefully. I mean, we can easily do
So I
what
see,
you're saying.
yeah, it's just a different route. We were wondering if we could reallocate, but what Lewis is saying is we have to give it back.
It's gone back.
And then we have to apply for it again.
Right,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, with some estimates of what you
Yeah,
actually want to do.
that's fine.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think, just bookkeeping wise, that's the way it
Okay.
should.
What we wanted to know, that's why we're
Right,
here.
yeah,
That's why we're here asking, but just so you have a reference of what our thoughts were was the paint and closing up the ceiling at West Street Station, and 10 structural firefighting helmets for our interior members only. There's actually no need to have NFPA dated helmets for exterior firefighters. I mean, they're not seeing heat, they're not seeing the intensive
That's the
stuff.
first time I've heard that, something like that,
Well,
in all these years.
just for example.
Don't tell our insurer that.
It's a liability risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, so what I would suggest you guys do is actually go out and get the estimates for that, for each individual one.
Yep.
And bring those back, or submit them in for ARPA funding.
Yep.
And, but yeah, I don't think we can just.
Yeah, we've got to go through the process, right?
That's the problem.
Yeah, through
No, that's fine.
through the fund.
That's why we brought it, and we wanted to be transparent that there was some
Appreciate you doing
unused
that,
funds,
yeah.
and
Right.
we didn't think it was appropriate to use them for stuff that may
Right,
happen in the
right,
future.
yeah.
Right. No, and that's
That we
great.
actually don't have any intention of using.
Great, thank you for that.
Hey, could you actually find out, get me the estimate that you had gotten for the lighting? I'd just like to see where.
Yep, I have it right here, and I'll get
Yeah.
a printed copy for you.
Yeah, if you could, just to see where something went wrong there, because
I can bring
Was
it
it
up.
that a different contractor did
Same
it?
contractor.
You can just email it to us.
Yeah,
The select board.
That would be fine.
Give you that, that'd be great.
So basically, all that was done was lighting and one receptacle. Just a quick overview, and there was some future stuff built in for a mezzanine, like a 15-foot outlet towards the back of the station for charging flashlights and stuff that we already have elsewhere. Just, I don't know, we thought it was excess, that wasn't really needed.
Okay, so this is something you guys
Did a modification.
modification after, okay. Gotcha. That makes more sense.
Yes.
The lighting.
The lighting quote didn't change. It was the stuff that we decided we hadn't gotten done yet and weren't gonna get done.
Okay.
After the change in administration.
That's good. Thank you.
All right, I think this has been a very informative session.
That was great. Thank you very much, Raj.
Thanks very much.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're always welcome back.
And one last thing on that electrical quote, I would like to reserve the right to have someone come in and check out where we having problems with the breaker panel last night and it's already allocated for electricity uses over at West Street Station. So at least before we cut the check back to the town, just get that done, get it checked out by a couple contractors for the electrical panel over there. 'Cause we
So,
have
as long as it's not for 10,000,
No.
Well, anything that happens, we'll show you a quote.
We're gonna show quotes.
Right, we'll be completely transparent.
Before giving it to you and then taking it back.
So for example, the panel box is an old push-o-matic. You're familiar with that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, we didn't have lights in our bathroom and our utility closet last night. So we were playing around trying to get it fixed and I kept pushing the breaker and it wouldn't reset, but it wasn't marked either as the which breaker. And then all of a sudden, after like the 10th time of pushing it, we had lights.
And we have a licensed electrician on the fire department, so there wouldn't be any opposition of us buying the parts, getting a quote from the electrical supplier and buying the stuff ourselves, right? And having our licensed electrician on the department do it. We don't have to pay a contractor.
He's not billing. He's just materials.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds good to me.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
most of us are willing to put in some labor to help. It's our town too.
That's the same thing with the paint. We had talked about throwing a paint party, maybe get some pizza and all of us get together rather than getting a quote from a contractor.
That's how the town office was painted.
You get stuck, I might offer to help you.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming in.
Meeting.
Just had Mr. Wilson. I'm a retired electrician.
Well, how are you?
Master of 3 states.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need a ride? You're all set.
Give me a ride.
Okay, fine.
Do you still live next to the fire station? Huh? You still live next to the fire station? Which house?
We had the over the rail wall.
So far away. Oh, okay.
I've been there for 63 years.
Okay. I bought short.
Sorry.
Went up on the hill. Oh, on Leon Road.
Here, let's head out this
We're
way.
continuing our meetings.
Sorry, guys.
Right. Constable, we got
Exactly.
Can you put again where we are again in our correspondence?
We're on road foreman's report.
Okay.
So we had the over the rail mower, we had rented that for a week. And, we did 2 routes, when I say routes, the plow, you guys are plowing, they have their own route. So we did 2 people's routes. And we're thinking about renting it next year and doing the other way. And then not renting it for a few years, stuff come back up. And it went fairly well. Guys were out cutting off some of the stumps that, you know, they get all the way knocked down. The amount of savings that's going to do, having to go out and cut that brush manually.
Were you required of building rescuing?
I think it's gonna be well worth it.
So, what do we spend on renting that?
It's about 2,000 something.
Oh man, was that the Jack of all blades?
No.
That's a great name.
I like that name. Yeah, it's like 20,000.
I would say 2350, but I don't remember.
Yeah, 21.
We'll say it's somewhere around 2,000.
And,
It's probably $30,000 equipment.
you could only wish it's about a $200,000 piece of equipment. With the tractor, with the tractor and the, blade and stuff.
And so what you're gonna do is you did half this year, half next year, and then a year off.
A couple years off.
So you're only spending 4,000 every 5 years.
Right.
It'll take a long time to pay for that.
Was it 4,000?
2,000.
Oh,
2,900.
Okay. Yeah, so it's
We're trying to
definitely.
help our older members too.
So it's not just a PTO attachment.
Every second Tuesday,
No.
we have open
No.
public meeting.
No, that tractor would not be able to, there was quite a good sized tractor that we did that. They did a little bit of grading and, we did, blowing the leaves out of the ditches. Which a lot of people ask you why you do that, but it makes a big difference, you know, it helps keep the culverts clean, which you don't think of, but guess what, that's where they go. And,
I hate all the backward deals, don't you?
All right.
That's part of the reason.
Correspondence for information. Anything you'd like to discuss from that?
I guess, before I discuss it, did you go to the police thing today?
That's later on our agenda.
Okay, well, the reason I wanted to say that, because I didn't want to, I was looking at their numbers and the amount of hours that they're doing, and if you don't see blue lights on in town, they're not doing their job. You know what I'm saying? If you don't see them have somebody pulled over, they're not pulling people over. They're in town for 4.5 hours and they don't have a person, even a warning given out. I think they maybe gave out 3 tickets for the whole time they were there, and the amount of time they were here was just incredible. And at least pull these people. The last sheriff said that he could sit out here and give out tickets all day long. He could sit down in a hollow and give out tickets all day long. I'm not saying we want to become a place where no tolerance.
A speed trap.
Yeah, no tolerance.
Right.
But, you know, I think there's a lot of frustrated residents in this town with the policing that we're getting. And one of the reasons is, like I said, if you're not seeing somebody getting pulled over and they sit right there, so why is anybody gonna slow down for these guys? If they're not gonna do what we're hiring them to do, I don't think, you know, I hope everybody else just at least takes a look at that, because I mean, some of the only tickets they gave, 2 tickets they gave, was ones we weren't billed for. It was a grant one. And they gave 2 tickets out on that. It's 4.5 hours in town and you're telling me you couldn't pull somebody over and give them a warning? So, and you know, I hear it from a lot of people in town that they're frustrated with the speed in town. We hear it all the time, and it's amazing to me that people aren't speeding. You know, maybe they're not, and we all just get misinformation.
Well, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I didn't think so either, but I could be wrong. It's happened. So.
Okay. Anything else under correspondence for information? If we go down to correspondence for discussion and/or action, update, if any, on the Salmon Brook Erosion Emergency Watershed Protection Program.
Oh, there's updates.
I'll turn that over to you.
So all 3, all 3 grants were approved. for funding. So basically Boyd Road, the T-Bows and the Bolster property there along Schoolhouse Road.
Yeah.
That whole ledge. And actually, surprisingly, the other Bolster, I don't know if he's related to Betty, who lives down.
Cleon down.
Yeah, down there. They did go look there just to see what he had going on, because he gets flooding on that plain. And there's a bunch of timber and stuff piled up, which is part of the problem. And so all three of them were approved. I contacted all of the homeowners.
No, he was approved, Cleon down in he was approved, oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
So they're all 75% funded. So just as a rough idea, Boyd Road is 200K, and that's to do revetment and removal of timber in their area. So it'd be 150 they pay for it, it'd be 50 by the homeowner.
50 by the homeowner.
Right. And then it's a little weird along Schoolhouse Road there, because they consider that one project, but it's the Bolsters on the property on the other side of the road from their house, and then the T-Bows are there. And so when I sent it to them, I said that's 340, and 256 of it would be paid, so it'd be 85. I'm not sure how they would agree to figure out how to mix and match that, unless we ask them to come back and try to break it up, but they're like, it's one bank. And so I let them know that. And then for down along the river, it's 44K, and they'll pay 33 to remove all the wood.
Where is that?
For what's his name? Bolster along the.
Cleon down in the hollow.
Yeah.
If you go out that driveway.
So they come down in there, and it'd be about 44K to pull out some stuff and kind of clean it up. And again, 33 would be paid. So you're talking 50K. Not the problem with Boyd Road, but and I should know her name because I talked to her. She passed away.
I was going to say,
Sally just passed away. So I've been working with her daughter, who I was working with before anyway.
Okay.
She can't make any decision because the whole estate's in probate right now.
Right.
But I talked to Michelle at the USDA guys, and I'm like, is it November 26th application that you filed to say, yes, we'd like to do this? I'm like, is that a hard deadline? He's like, it's pretty flexible. They just don't want it to be 7 or 8 months down the road. And I told her, I said, listen, it's not really a hard deadline. I think in the next couple of months, if you want to make a decision, you probably can, and the money will still be there.
The question is, if it's in probate, how long is probate? I mean, sometimes it's pretty quick, but a lot of times, doesn't that drag on for quite some time?
Yeah, so
that's.
I'll just keep in touch with her. I mean, at this point, it's a little bit between the office and her, but
okay.
Michelle LaPointe seemed to think, he's like, because the work is supposed to be done by June of next year. That's when it has to be spent. So obviously it can't go too long, because what'll have to happen is the application be filled out. If they agreed, they would provide the money for the 25%, because the town is the actual agent.
Right.
They do allocate about 10% of those costs for technical assistance, and so there's some additional money to help out. But basically you have to go out and get quotes. Somebody gives you a quote, you agree to the quote, their 25% goes in, and then off you go. So I mean, it's good news. I don't know if somebody wants to come up with 50K to do revetments on that property. So I'd also notified her that there's other programs available. So there's a program that will buy your house. The state will buy your house for its assessed value, and then they tear it down and they leave the property as greenland or whatever you want for the future. So there's opportunities.
A
buyout. Yeah. I'm not sure she wants to do that, but it may be a place it's hard to sell. But this is all finance she'll have to work on. So
right.
It's a nice house.
It might be that the probate judge can allow an expense out of the estate if it's going to protect the assets of the estate. So even though it's in probate doesn't necessarily mean that nothing can happen.
Yeah. She said her lawyer told her she couldn't make any legal commitments or any financial commitments. But that's a good point. Maybe I should, and again, I'm not a lawyer. But again, this little tip that maybe if they want to conserve the property, it's pretty bad along that bank. Especially on the west side, they can't see. When you go around the back side of the house, it's pretty eaten up. So those are all done, and we'll just wait for them to come back and people decide what they want to do. I did ask. I didn't have what's his name again?
Cleon.
I don't have any contact with him because the woman who lives right there in the corner, she goes back there and checks in on him every so often. Deborah, yeah. And so when we went to her house, she goes, it's really for him if you want to walk back there and take a look. And so they did. They were really nice. So I asked her to contact him, and if not, I'll just walk down there on Thursday or Friday.
Or you can drive right down there.
Or drive.
Yeah.
But yeah. Go, walk, whatever. I just remember I walked last time. I don't know why. We parked in her driveway, I think.
Is that, I just wanted to ask a question about the two pieces together. They even said to you, what about the town road at some point?
Yeah.
What point does the town get involved in that?
Well, I'd be interested to know, I'll talk to Michelle again to see where the starting point of the whole bank thing is. And because we own close to the bridge.
Right. On both sides, going up.
Yeah, on both sides. And so I don't know if it's from the bridge all the way to the end of the T-Bo's property, because it doesn't, the Moores who live on the other end of the T-Boat,
right,
their stuff's fine.
Right.
Although that would have to be the access area to get down there. And they have to figure that out, right? Because there is an old mill down there. And so when the cultural guys came, they're like, that'll have to be marked off. It can't be, so they'll have to figure out. Access is a whole nother issue. Same thing even with Boyd Road. I think the access would be from Schoolhouse Road. They're very familiar and friends with people on their side of the creek, the brook, and it's flat. You're coming from that side, but you will see. So I'll ask them for that particular DRS number. Where does it start? Are they starting at the bridge and then running through or not? Because in theory, it'd be $85K to do the whole thing. And who knows how you want to split that up if we decide to get involved in a little bit. And I don't know what Betty Bolster is interested in as far as that bank on the other side. I mean, because it doesn't directly affect her house. It's just her. I don't know. I only met her once, so.
All right.
We'll see what they come back with.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, right? And it just depends on. It depends on what you want to do. I mean, you look at the one that was done along Salmon Brook, and like, man, you could have saved a lot of money if you just waited. But they were concerned, so.
Oh, right.
Right.
So that's that.
Okay.
I'll update you as more
Thanks for
responses.
taking care of this.
Sure.
Let's see. Mike Mrowicki would like to schedule a time to come in, and when would you like to do that?
What didn't he have a deadline when he wanted to come in by?
I think they go back in January.
So.
Okay.
Which is next meeting?
Let's see, we have a meeting on the
in 2 weeks.
29th, December 13th, December 27th, and then we're into January.
Should we just give him the dates we meet and let him pick one? I mean, I don't really care one way or the other.
Yeah.
Okay. That okay?
Yeah.
All right, I'll do that. I'll send him a message and let him choose. Okay. Great. New business. ARPA updates and discussion. Park Laughton Road structure estimate. The bids have gone out, but I guess we don't get them back until the end of the month.
Right.
So nothing new on that.
Right.
Okay. MVP health insurance renewal date is coming right up on the 30th. We're going to meet on the 29th, but apparently everyone
was happy with
seems happy with it. Shall we let Charlotte know that we're good to go on the same plan that we have been on?
Yeah, I would think we.
Okay, I guess we maybe need a
Motion, I'll make a motion that we continue with the same healthcare insurance policy.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that was just for the minutes, the reflective silver QHD HP.
Wow.
Isn't that what I said when I?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
I thought that was an airline boarding group.
yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. Okay, someplace in here we have the highway, the discharge, request to discharge the mortgage on the charrette trailer.
Yes.
Park, and the Bob Fisher has given the okay to this. Thanks for getting in touch with him. But this needs to be notarized, so I think someone will need to sign it in the presence of a notary.
Okay.
So I guess I would make a motion to sign this, and maybe I'll be in here next week, but if you are going to be in here
Yeah,
soon,
I can read, yeah.
then I delegate Lewis to sign this.
All right.
That's my motion.
I'll let you know.
That's not good.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Lewis, I'll leave this in the new
Right.
business.
Yeah, no, you don't.
And, okay, back to Mr. Davidson for our regional, you attended
I
the
did.
regional
I
policing.
met the sheriff, did not get arrested. Been in the building.
He didn't ask you about unlicensed dogs, did he?
No, no.
No.
We did talk about animal control, which is interesting. That'll come up.
Yeah,
So, what the meeting was about is he's trying to come up with a way to solve some problems that have been going on forever, which is people aren't getting enough police response. It's a little bit of a mess. Some towns pay, some towns don't. So apparently only half of the 23 towns contract for them to do what we have them do. I know Putney does 40 hours a week, and
Right.
Putney and Westminster are combined.
Oh, they did combine.
They did combine,
Okay.
as did Londonderry and Jamaica. So what he's trying to accomplish is coming up, so the test bed is animal control, right? So apparently that went away a while ago, and there was questions about who was doing animal control, and we talked about constables and everything, but we're not going to. And so they came up with a plan to have a regional animal control officer. But in order to do that, what he wanted was better planning, better funding, a better output than just trying to figure out, do I have an animal control officer? How often is she here? Am I getting called? Is she not getting called? So they put out a plan that 2 or 3 towns started where he looked at how much it would cost to do a budget to have her full time. And then the towns that wanted to participate their payment was annual payment was based on population. And so you'd pay an annual amount, and all of this then would build into the fund to pay for the animal control officer. Well, now like 10 towns are in on it. Because the thing is the hourly rate, you can still call for animal control, it's like $250 an hour for her to come out. So if she has to come out more than once, or I think he said 3 times a year, it's cheaper just to be part of the big group, right? I'm just thinking of insurance pool. And so he's trying to now do the same thing with regional policing, is figure out a way, and he's very open to all suggestions. He has some ideas on how to do it and how to figure out, hey, how much are we going to pay if we want to be part of this pool? So we're no longer paying this hourly rate. We in fact have what we want and what we're asking for. And he has a way to then budget, how many deputies do I need? Do I need to hire more? And is this contract on a 3-year plan? So he can do his planning, right? If this makes sense. So he wants to get something. He's also president of the Sheriff's Association for the state. He kind of wants to try and set up a trial basis in Windham County and see how it works. He wants to go to the legislature and ask them to figure out how to do this. And what he's looking for just off at the beginning is, can I get the towns together where we can talk about this, and the towns say, you know what, we're interested in seeing what you want to do. We're not committing to any money, any finances or anything like that. Just come up with a board and a method for us to talk to him about what we want as towns, and him to present the way forward so that he has a budget and we get what we want, right? So there's 4 pillars that the sheriff takes care of, and it's roads and response. I can't remember what they all are. You know, all of those, my understanding, would be provided under this plan where you pay X thousand per year, whatever that number happens to be, based on population. He goes, it could be 50% population, 50% grand list. It could be 50% 40% population, 40% grand list, 20%, what's your 3-year crime rate? You know, so to figure out how much each town would pay out of this pot is if you're participating. And then what I think he wants to do, and I'm making this up now, is much like the dog thing, if you don't want to be part of that group, they'll still come service you, but it won't be $65 an hour, it'll be $180 an hour, right? So what he's trying to do is figure out how much interest is there, and are there enough towns interested in simply talking about this to draft up some letter to the legislature to say, hey, we want to give this a shot, what do you guys think? So I was looking today, looking at so we're paying $23,000 a year for what we're getting, 40 hours?
20-something hours a
20
month.
a month, 20 a month. So that's for 20 hours a month. So we're in for $23K. So if we decided we wanted to do something like what Putney's doing, if they were issuing more citations, where they're getting 40 hours a week, right? So that's 4 times more, right? We'd be in for, I don't know, 100K to get that kind of coverage. What the number may come out in this regional policing plan, I don't know. But you know, it might come out to 100K, it might come to 120, it might come to 150. But the question is, what are we going to get? And he wants to have a board of people from each town. So he's like, I don't want to dictate what we do or don't do. I want to know what you guys want so we can come up with a plan and then provide that stuff. Because right now, all his, I don't know if you know, that building, the county bought and gave to him. And his salary is paid. But the county has no authority, and his 2 admin assistants. The county has no authority to have a police force through funding. So all of the funding for all his deputies comes from what is now contract policing, the 20 hours we ask for. So he's trying to pay for things now, all his deputies, based on I have a service, how much do we pay, and maybe there's a better way to do this, right? For planning purposes. And he has same issues, capital planning, does he have to buy new cars, blah, blah, blah. So that's the gist of it. You can ask me any questions. I may make up an answer. He would like to talk to, he's perfectly happy to come to every town and talk to select boards about it. What he'd really like to do, which makes it easier instead of 19 different presentations, whatever, is have one person from each town come and let him give the full presentation out of the draft form and let everybody come back and talk about it.
Yeah. Would it involve a different split between when the state police get involved in a crime versus the sheriff's department?
Well, so that's interesting too. This came up because people have all these questions, right? So one of the other problems they have is that apparently Vermont had tried to set up a more centralized communications union system where there are going to be 4 quadrants of Vermont where you'd call and you'd get someone in one of those 4 quadrants. They got rid of 2 of them, I think, including down here. So now if you're standing, somebody asked him this, if he's standing there in the sheriff's office and he calls 911, he's going to get the New Hampshire 911 because that's what cell phone tower it hits. So you have to explain to them where you are, and he goes, oh, well, you're in Dummerston, I'm going to transfer you over to the Vermont 9, so you're waiting. They transfer you to Vermont 911, but then it says where you are, and then they transfer you, depending on the time of day, to the Westminster Barracks for the state police, who then look down and go, oh, there's a sheriff's deputy in Dummerston, I'm now going to forward this to them, and then they'll take care of it. So there's this long route of how it's going. What he would like to do in a perfect world, apparently we spend like $80 million a year on state police budget. I think his vision is if there were a regional police plan that worked with the sheriff's department, it would include Brattleboro, obviously, or any town with the police force, that maybe now you can start tapping some of that money that I don't need the state police in Windham County. The sheriff can handle everything. So I could, you know, and I could totally see how policing is just like anything else we're doing, right? Like he's the fire department coming into the state police and going to the state and asking for money. Like, why do you need money? Not whatever. He's just trying to solve a problem that he readily admits. You know, he goes, the summary to start this off is service is garbage because that's what people think. He goes, so that's what I have to figure out. He goes, I'm not going to argue with them whether it is or not. We're trying to fix it. And they're just basically doing, he calls it a 60% solution, which is what all law enforcement does, right? They don't provide 100% coverage of every road and everything in town, they all work on a contract basis. So he goes, I deal with revenue comes in, expenses go out, just like everybody else, so.
But yeah, it's just like the town, I mean.
Yep. So.
It's, I guess, well, start out just doing the job you were contracted to do would be the nicest thing to start with. I mean, and then come to us and saying, well, now I've got an idea that will work. You know, this is, I'm doing the job that I contracted for, and I think I can make it better. When I just, like I said, I hope he doesn't know what my license plate number is. I know,
everybody knows what your license plate is.
It's on record.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm gonna be going down the road tomorrow,
It's like,
26 miles an hour.
Those, they know where you live, because they'll just look it up and sit outside your house.
Exactly.
So a little bit of a separate issue from the ticket situation. But I think he understands exactly what you're saying.
Well, I think a lot of our policing, because a lot of our policing is, they take up way too much of the budget, and the state police are here to take care of the crimes. We budgeted them more for, you know, patrolling the roads, and that's what we did.
Traffic control.
Is what we contracted them for, because we have the state police that do the other stuff. And if you're not, like I said, it just feels to me that you're not doing your job. And if you're not doing that, it's hard for me to buy in to, well, we're gonna try this and see how this works. It's gonna cost you more money, but let's see how this works for you.
Yeah. Or it might cost you less money. You might get the same service for less money.
So I think it'd be worth, you know,
having him look and see what it's gonna do.
Yeah.
What he wants to do.
And I think that's what he's looking for at this point is, he feels, he's like, I could be ready to go by next year. He is, whether it happens or not, doesn't matter to me. Could be 2 years, could be 3 years. What he wants to do is just start the process. And he sent the last email out to everybody, to all the towns, right before he came in. And so he's like, what we're looking for is, can we get together? Can we figure out, is there some interest in figuring out if this works? And then moving forward with no commitment at all on whether you'd be a part of it, financial or anything like that. That's all he's looking for. So,
yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
What about everybody else?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think, to me, I think he could have almost done that himself and then come to the towns and said, hey, this is the idea I've got.
Well, he said that a number of times. He goes, if he doesn't have buy-in from the town, he doesn't want to do it and then sell it. He's like, I need to know if only 5 towns are in on this, I don't need to waste my time or your time trying to sell this. I like to, he's looking for buy-in in front. I really do think he's, I've never met the guy until today. I do think he's very serious about, you know, I want all the towns involved in this. I don't want to dictate. He goes, I can't dictate anyway. I just want everybody in from the beginning and see where we're at. So.
Okay.
Very well.
Good. Thanks for doing it.
That was interesting.
Let's see. Okay, is there any other new business?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do you want to think about that?
Who seconded it?
I did.
I try to get Alex off after a second every time. Last time they beat me. It's the same pattern, you know.
Yeah, we used to have these, you know, buttons that were connected.
Like Family Feud.
Light up in front of your name that we have.
Right.
So,
Before you like Z.
SeVEDS.